Let's return to our headline story now on the Kenyan elections, where the official results are expected today. Presidential candidates, including Deputy President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga, are already at the National Tallying Center ahead of the announcement. Preliminary results currently show incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta has an unassailable lead in near complete provisional results. Now let's discuss this further with Delano Kiilu. He's a security analyst with the Protective and Safety Authority of Kenya. Mr. Kiilu, thank you very much for joining us here on Africa Live.
Thank you.
We're largely giving the election process here in Kenya a thumbs up. The international observers have said it was a free and fair and credible situation there, but there is still some concern about the progression of the aftermath of the counting process itself. Are those concerns justified?
Indeed, as you have said, and if all the international observers actually saw that the Kenyan elections widely was free and fair. The challenge that has come up now in the tallying process, which has delayed substantially, was due to some technicalities in terms of transmission of the results as well as receiving of the results. And the IEBC has gone to its fallback position to look at manual form tallying, and which it has done. And that's why we expect a presidential announcement within the next the next hour or so. So what we're expecting really is to see a change from the dynamic over the last 2 days, where there's been some bit of confusion. There have, of course, been some kind of challenges that have been raised by the opposition in terms of the process and the transparency of the tallying, not of the voting process. The voting process was, by far and wide, largely very, very peaceful. The challenge is now, are those indeed the actual results, and can we confirm that across the country? So we would say that the election process in Kenya has proceeded better than previously.
It has proceeded better than previously. But let's just dwell slightly, though, just a few minutes on that tallying process, though, because the Electoral Commission itself also says that the manual forms were also uploaded for the public. Has there been any complaint at all from the public regarding the tallying process?
The public have not really complained. There have been one or two incidents, and in terms of reporting, there have been one or two conjectures in terms of, we don't really see this as the result that came out of that particular polling station. But as the US ambassador just mentioned briefly a few hours ago in his press conference, there is no election on this planet that is absolutely 100% completely perfect. There will be one or two imperfections, but largely the will of the people will be known in the next hour or so once the chairperson of the IEBC comes out and declares it. And the forms which are available have been made available to agents from both sides. That is, from the ruling party, from the opposition, from independent candidate parties, and everybody has been examining these forms that have come from the constituency tallying centers, and they have had the opportunity to look very clearly at these. Now, one of the things that did happen was that there was a lot of security around the processes. So we expect that the processes where the backup forms, together with what has been electronically transmitted to the National Tallying Center, will add up. And that add-up result is the one that we're eagerly waiting for in Kenya to announce who the next president is going to be for the Republic of Kenya.
And many, of course, are still worried internationally. We've been seeing these reports coming through. They're very worried about whether Kenya can withstand the test of time, or whether the 2007 election violence may rear its head again in Kenya this time around. First of all, though, how can Kenya prevent a return to that dark past?
Kenya did take many steps, and we saw that in 2013, where we did not have pre, post, or mid-election violence. The same steps were taken from last year, 2016. We participated in it as the Protective Safety Association of Kenya. And what is happening right now is the National Disaster Operations Center, in conjunction with the National Police Service, Kenya Police Administration, Police Department of Criminal Investigations, and National Youth Service, Kenya Forestry, Kenya Wildlife Services, have a very elaborate plan around the setup of this current election. In 2007, we had less than 50,000 policemen in Kenya. Right now, we have 180,000 uniformed security personnel across the country. And hotspots were earlier identified where there could be potential rising up of any kind of trouble. And those hotspots have been actually cordoned off so that we avoid any kind of challenges in going forwards with the post-election, the announcement of the results, and any post-election uprisings or of civil disobedience. So there are elaborate plans that have been set up in place, and the international community need not be worried that this would spill over into an uncontrolled and untamable situation such as we experienced in 2007.
Right, so Kenya is trying to deepen its democracy, and so far international observers have said the democratic process has, up to this point, has gone on very well, though in terms of other countries trying to deepen their democracies, because African countries are very much young democracies. What lessons can be learned from Kenya's current predicament?
Kenya's current predicament is brought on primarily by two reasons. One is the large increase in the number of voters that are registered, as well as the extremely large turnout. And then also number two, the technology deployed to actually capture the event. So African countries can learn by taking the 5 or the 4 years that they have before any election to really drive the agenda home in terms of preparing for the anticipated growth of the voter population, as well as the anticipated larger number of results, the tallying, the transparency, and as well as just the general ability to cause all candidates, whether they're potential winners or whether they're going to be potential losers, to make sure that everybody is at peace with one another. Right. Largely, we've seen this. We have seen at two levels. We've seen at the summit there is a challenge, right, but below the presidential vote, the governor level, the senator level, the member of parliament level, the women's representative level, and the member of the cabinet assembly level, it looks like both sides are very happy with the winners, and it looks like everything is moving along at all the other levels, the sub-tier levels. But at the presidential level is the only area where we've experienced challenge in Kenya. And I believe as we continue to grow as a democracy, we will see more and more wide acceptance of results in the future.
Right, Delano Kiilu, thank you very much for your insights on Kenya's election.